Perfect. So, can you hear me? Yeah. Let's do this. Yeah. Evolutionary Agile is my title for this talk. Let's talk about that title to start with. There's two things in it. There's the evolutionary one, I'll get back to that. The other one is Agile. Because Agile is used a lot and does mean a lot of stuff. Is it with a capital A? Is it a method? Is it a whatever is it? Well, so what kind of Agile am I talking about here for CBB and our journey? Well, not this kind of Agile. It's not an Agile organization, methods, coaches, teams, transformation, or whatever they can put Agile in front of. That's actually not what we're talking about here at CBB. We're not interested in that, per se. We're interested in what all those things can give us. We're interested in an Agile mindset, basically. So that's what we're aiming for. That's what we're working towards. And when we say an evolutionary Agile journey, then that is the kind of agility we are looking for, the mindset. The other part of it is evolutionary. What do I actually mean by that? Well, there's two approaches, basically. There's evolutionary and there's revolutionary. Revolutionary is the one we normally choose. That's the one over here. That's the revolution. And I think we choose that because it has a Bible. SAFe is a revolution. SAFe is a framework. You get people's job titles, you get the Agile release train, you get your cadences, you get everything described in a Bible. And you need to follow the Bible. And you have a preacher telling you what to do and telling you when you're not following the Bible, you are a heresy. You are not following the rules. That's what you get when you get a framework. You get a revolution. You stop doing what you're doing right now and do something else. Follow the Bible. This is how you should do it. And that is revolutionary Agile. What I try to implement here is evolutionary. That's basically the cornerstone of Kanban. Let's start with what you do now. Respect current roles and grow from there. You could also explain it a bit like this. There it comes. There's two ways of approaching it with the J curve. You know, when you introduce something, you'll have some time before you get the effects. The bigger the change, the longer the time it'll take to get on the positive trend. When you do it evolutionary, you do it with a lot of small changes all the time. So you get a fast feedback. You'll get fast improvement. Small, but fast. If you implement a framework, it might take you 2 years, and after 2 years, you have a framework. There's nothing about value in that. It's just a framework. Just the roles, just the release trains. You might not be better off. You could be better off, that's fine, but you don't know. You've just followed the Bible and gotten the framework. Where if you go evolutionary, you look for the value from day one. And say, what can we improve today to change tomorrow? So, to make that transformation, of course, you need a goal. My goal is this sentence. I want to create a world where we continuously optimize the end-to-end flow of value. That is the journey I want to take CBB on. So continuously optimizing the end-to-end flow of value. That's actually a quite normal lean term to do something like that. And through the evolutionary, well, that's what I've been trying to do. My first step of CBB is to say, okay, where do we start then? If I want to create an evolutionary change of CBB, and I want to reach this goal, where should I start? You start a lot of places. I've chosen to start with Kanban principle and say, okay, start with what you do now and visualize the workflow. Because visualization is a powerful tool, and that helps a lot in a lot of situations. So I've started with simple Kanban, and I started it on a portfolio level. So why portfolio? Because when you look to Agile coaches and Agile implementations normally go to the team and say, okay, start at the team level, get them Agile and grow from there. Well, that's fine, but I want to create an end-to-end flow and improve that. And the teams are not end-to-end enabled. They could be, but they are normally not to start with. So if I were to focus on a team and optimizing the BSS that Martin's run, they could run a tight ship. That would be perfect. But it wouldn't mean that we were able to create value into the market faster or better or learn from it. To do that, I need to coordinate across CBB. That's why I focused on the portfolio level to start with the end-to-end flow. And look at that, visualize that. Okay. Yes, to start looking at that and improving from there. So instead of the teams, I look at the whole thing. Kind of see I'm somewhere in between the teams and the strategic level. Of course, we have a strategic level. We have a direction. Christian has set a direction for where we want to go. Telenor has ambition for where CBB are to go. So I've tried to start at the middle there, at the second flight level, and coordinate between the teams and the strategy, and be that connecting pin between those. And that started with something like that. This is a visualization of what we call our flow board. It is a Kanban board. Basically, we start up here with an idea. Someone has a good idea. Let's scope that. Let's try to figure out how to do that. Then we go through design, hypothesis, the hard word, phase where we try to figure out how could we actually build this and how could that look. We often use something like Google Design Sprint to test theories. Could this work? What could be done? We need to build a business case at some point. We need to break it down into workable sizes. We need to work on it, deploy, and at some point we're done. So that's basically how our workflow looks. And an important thing, this isn't just a pipeline. This is a funnel. So we might start with 50 options and ideas, and there might only be 2 of them going through the funnel, because it's more important to say no than to say yes when you want to create focus and flow. And it's easier to say yes than no. So that's a problem we face every day. I've added something here that's actually our rule books, that's our policies. How do we actually work together? What are the rules? So we start with looking for black swans at ideas and scopes. We actively look for the black swans, the things that actually matter more than anything else, if we do or don't. If you don't know the black swan theory, this is not where I'm going to tell about that, because that's a big deal. We can take that another time. At design, we look at, should we do a Google Sprint? Shouldn't we do a Google Sprint? We have a decision point there. How should we approach this? Do we know enough to actually start designing, or do we need to make customer surveys or something like that? Make a prototype, get more knowledge. Business case, we have an agreement that at least we need a cost of delay. And I'll try to explain why cost of delay is so important for us later. Before we break down, we have some kind of buffer. It's a flow, it's a system, and we need a buffer before bottlenecks. Our bottleneck is often work in progress. How much can we actually work on and producing at the same time? Often we have started too much, as anyone else often do, and we try to train ourselves to work on less. I know a lot of people say, well, then you need to implement a WIP limit. We don't do that. Kanban doesn't say you need to implement a specific WIP limit. You need to limit your WIP. And there's a big difference. Because the work that goes through our funnel here varies a lot. It could be something like the GDPR, the PSD2, regulatory work. It could be update of our app. It could be an automation of our incasso flow. It could be small and big from different part of the company, because we're just one company. And we're a company that runs a big ship we have almost 500,000 customers, and we need to keep them up and running. And that's our first priority. So instead of putting a specific WIP limit, we try to work pull-based. So we try to say, okay, do we actually have the capacity to start this work? And to do that, balance that, you need a buffer. Because it's not just one team that can execute everything you throw at them. It's different resources. And they have different specialties. Some of them are good cross-functional, but not all are. We have specialists as everyone else. And we need to balance that. And to be able to balance that so we get a mixture of, we get the flow, and we don't do optimization for individuals. We need something to work on here. So buffer zone, and then pull-based. Then we deploy, and then we begin to earn money, basically. For us, deploy is the commitment point where we say, okay, from here, we actually begin to cash in on the ideas. And then there's a long time where we are deployed, but not done. Because just to deploy something out to the market isn't enough. You need to learn from it as well. You need to implement the feedback loop. You need to have a retrospective and say, okay, so we had an idea, we had a hypothesis, we built something, tested and put it into production. What happened? We try to implement a feedback loop from there to actually learn from it. I put on cost of delay because cost of delay starts here, ends here. It's kind of where we put a value on our thing and we begin to cast in on the ideas. But again, cost of delay, I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. And then we have our retrospective, of course, and we're done at some point when we evaluated the work we've done. So this is how a Kanban board could look at us. We started with a lot of work here, very anonymous, so we can actually look at it. And then we start from there. It started to spread. So we started to have Kanban boards in the different teams. And we started with one little Kanban board at one team, and then they expanded and expanded. Because what happens when you start with Kanban is you start very internally focused. You start with our limits, how much can we actually work on, how does that actually work, how can we work faster to deliver value. When you get a bit more mature, you start to spread out and have your focus towards the other teams and say, okay, what are the requirements before we can actually commit to a work, before we can take on a task? What's our requirement for that? We begin to mature in that way and say, okay, we need actually to have a definition of ready and not just a definition of done. And I actually think to have a definition of ready is more important than a definition of done. Because definition of done could easily be something like, well, we earn money from it now. Perfect. Or it's deployed. Yeah. But definition of ready says, what are we actually committed to? What quality level are we actually at? And when you begin to turn that focus outward, you'll get something like that. You'll get a lot of Kanban boards and a lot of teams. And teams begin to visualize their work, talk about how much can we actually take on. And I hear people actually talk about what didn't we do. So we have these monthly KPI meetings where we talk about what we're doing, talk about all the numbers, how that goes. And then I have like 15 minutes where I talk about our flow. And my latest question to them is actually each team, tell me one thing you didn't do this month. What did you prioritize not to do in favor of something else that helped the entire organization? Because that's the hard question. It isn't to say what we do, it's what we choose not to do. That's where you create focus. When we actually say, well, there's something here we actually don't have to do. We could do something else instead that would make more sense for the company. It's a good idea. Yeah, we all have good ideas. We have plenty of good ideas. That's why I call it a funnel, because we need to remove some of them during the way and leave the absolute best of them back in there. So those are the ones we actually produce on, are the ones that actually matter. So from that we get a CPB that's now almost 100% Kanban enabled with visual Kanban boards all the way around. And people start talking and discussion from that. And we begin to see dependencies and people begin to show an interest into what other teams are actually doing. And that helps a lot. That removes a lot of fuss and bottlenecks because people are actually aware of what's going on in the entire organization. So that's the first step. We are end-to-end. We have enabled an end-to-end flow, the critical chain. We have figured out where our weakest link are. We have begun to optimize on those, and we now have a visualization of the entire workflow. The next step for me is this last part. I want to create a continuously optimize the end-to-end flow of value. But what is value? That's a hard question. What is value, actually? Because what's valuable to you might not be valuable to me. And it's definitely not valuable to Telenor, because they're looking at corners on the bottom line. And Telenor Norway looks at even more of that. So what's value? Well, to agree about that, we need a language that actually can communicate value. So we can talk about it. What is value to you, and how valuable is it compared to each other? For that, I've introduced cost of delay. That is the best language for that, in my opinion. Cost of delay is basically how much do we actually lose by not having a feature per time unit. So it's value versus time unit. This is a typical profile for cost of delay. This could be the feature. If we'd had it here, we'll have all this money from the start, but because we're delayed, each week we're delayed, we're losing money, basically. If it's going into a new market that would create 50 customers a week, every week we're not into that market, we are losing the value of 50 customers. So that's the cost of delay. How much is 50 new customers worth to CPB? Well, we need to put a price lab on that and talk about that. Because when we prioritize, we need to talk about that. The most simple way to do a cost of delay is actually backstep a bit, doing a triage model. This is what I do with management, because they need it simple. So we start at that level. I start with the management, and then every 2 months we have a rolling roadmap facilitation where they come up with all their good ideas. And then they need to prioritize. Of all these ideas you had, which one should we actually get people working on? The best way to do that is basically, it's if anyone has worked with a Scrum team and tried to do bucket estimation or t-shirt estimation, that's basically what we're doing. We're saying, okay, these ideas, put one up there. Okay, the next one, is it more valuable or less valuable? That's something the human brain is wired to actually do. We're good at seeing stuff like that. Is an apple bigger than an orange? That's hard to say. Is a melon bigger than an orange? That's easy to say. So we're good at that. We're good at initially knowing what is more bigger and smaller. So put them up there saying, okay, this is an average one, this is a bit bigger, this is a bit smaller. And then we do the same with value, or with complexity. Is it more complex or less complex? I'm saying complexity. I know it says time down here, but times equal complexity for us and for everyone, I think. That's basically it. Because the more complex it is, the longer it will take. And when I talk about time, there's only one type of time I'm actually interested in. That's time to market. How long does it actually take us to get this into the market? Back to the Kanban board, to the point where we deploy it and begin to earn money from it. That's the only measure of time that actually makes sense. I don't care if we spend 10 hours on it or 100 hours on it. If it takes a month, it takes a month. That's basically it. If it's 10 hours because we're not efficient, well, that's just fact. We're not efficient. It takes us a month to deliver 10 hours. If we can deliver 100 hours in a month, that's nice. That's fine. But the only thing that actually matters is how fast do we actually get it shipped and begin to earn money on it. So like that, we'll get an idea of where is the big value, where can we get a lot of money out of a little smaller effort or small time. And we'll find something up here, and we'll take those and put them into the funnel and say, okay, let's build the real case about this. Let's look into it and examine them further and see what's actually in them. So that's where we start at the roadmap. The next level I go to is the delay cost. Cost of delay cost. Yeah, that's basically money per time unit. That's the most basic way of doing cost of delay. On a Kanban board, it would look something like that. Each feature get a value per week. So this one is 12,000, this one is 8,000. So if it's the same guy working on both issues, and he's asking us, where should I prioritize? And why are you asking? It's there. It's visual. So because we're using Kanban, it's visual to everyone what the value we are trying to create is. And this one is actually even higher, so that might be the one you should help on. Actually ditch those two and help your colleague deliver 20,000. Or if you have something even higher, do that. So that helps the entire organization prioritize in real life, out on the floor where we actually work. It helps you get a language where you actually can communicate about what's creating value for us and how should we prioritize. Because it's visible, it's there. Yeah. The next level of cost of delay is the most important one. And as Donald Reinerson says, if you only quantify one thing, quantify the cost of delay. That's an important thing, actually. If you only quantify one thing in the whole business, quantify cost of delay. Cost of delay for us is cost of delay divided by duration, or quantified cost of delay divided by duration, to take the full Monty. We call it CD3 because that's a full mouthful every time to say that. CD3, we do something like that. We have an Excel sheet where we have reference numbers. Those we got from our finance guys and we got doing our work. We have something like a lifetime value of a customer, or monthly earnings. What is it worth for us to prevent churn one month, to prolong the customer's life for 1 month, basically. What is the customer's lifetime today? Stuff like that we actually have. And you'll probably have it for your companies as well. Your financial guy will dig into those, or your data guys will be able to get those numbers for you. We, of course, we also have stuff like what's a developer cost, what's an average full-time employee cost, what is a call to a customer service, how much does that actually cost to handle that. So we have all these things. We also have, if our homepage is down for 24 hours, how much does that actually cost in revenue and other stuff? If we are down 1 hour in peak time or 1 hour in off-peak time, how much does those things cost us? You can find those out. It's not that hard. But it requires, of course, some work, and it requires to sit people into a room and look at it. But we created an Excel sheet where we have all these and a lot of other stuff written down. And what we do then is when we create a case, we link to those numbers always. So the kind of a database of common numbers we use for all cases. So a CD3 case could be something like that. This Bing, a Microsoft search engine, they have 9% of the market. I didn't know that, but apparently they have. When you look at them, when you Google them, as I did, you can actually see that they perform a bit better than Google. Probably because their users are not so picky about the search engine, so they just go with what there is. So being a paid media on Bing is actually a good idea because it's 9% of the market and they perform better than Google. So we could say, yeah, we can get about 24 customers a week because we know how much we get from Google and we know that it's 9%, so that's an easy calculation. The cost, there isn't that much cost using Bing, and mostly some time setting it up, but it's not the big thing. Duration, well, we need to copy what we're doing on Google and then we need to test and try it out. Our guy said, well, I can do it in 3 days, and then we talked about duration, and he has started stuff and emails, and yeah, 2 weeks, that would be a reasonable amount of time. The case for this one, without breaking in numbers, would be around 100,000 a week for getting these customers. That's because I said 24 customers, I take the full lifetime value, and then set that started the first week. So if I'm delaying the first week, I'm delaying the entire journey of that value. So I can add that up and take it the first week, because the next week there will be another 24 customers. So saying that, it'll be around 100,000 a week for going into that market. It's a good case. And the profile, it's not like a peak. It's not like you need an Easter Christmas campaign. It's something we can do at all time. So timing isn't important. We just need to do it, and the sooner we do it, the sooner we learn. Looks like a good case. Then reality hits. We encountered a bottleneck. Duration went from 2 weeks to 26 weeks. Is it still a good case? No, not really. It changed it a lot. For us, this was actually what happened. It's a legal case. Our legal department couldn't really agree with Microsoft upon the DPA, and that took a lot of time, and they hadn't really noticed that we were dealing with this, and that was important for us. Not until the moment where we actually said, well, has anyone shown legal our case? No. Okay, let's try to do that. So we went up to the legal and presented them, okay, we have calculated. This is what we actually think we are losing every week. We are not going live with this Bing search engine. Can you help us? Yes, of course, we didn't know. It's just Bing, it's just a small search engine. We didn't have any idea that actually had an effect. We didn't know it added any value for us. So within a week, all of a sudden, it was okay. It was approved. But because they didn't use the same language as us to communicate value, they didn't know that they were delaying us with that amount of money. And that's where CD3 can help you a lot. The CD3 calculation is the cost of delay divided by duration, and duration is the time to market. So that's the time it actually takes us to produce something. It's not hours spent, it's time spent. And then we get a point out of that. When you divide those two, you'll just get a point. It's not a value, it's a point system of some kind. And you use that to do a ranking. And then you get one that's higher than the other, and then it'll fall down there. And that could look something like that. We have your case, you have your duration, you have your cost of delay, and then you get your point. And when you visualize it, it suddenly looks something like this. And this is important. This is back to where I started. This is the black swans. These one up here, there's a huge amount of value hidden here for small effort. And this is not just CBB talking. This is when you look into the literature about cost of delay in CD3. You look into black swan forming, Joshua Arnold's work. You'll see that he works on consultant, has done stuff like this for Maersk and for other big companies. So this is the pattern you'll see again and again. There will be black swans. There are things that matter so much more if you do than anything else. So if we can just fix these three, it doesn't matter if it's that one, or that one that'll come next. That we can just sort out with who's available, what can they do, what matches our capacity. But if we actually solve these one, that will make a difference. And that's an important point from cost of delay. Cost of delay is also a driver for strategic improvement. And why is that? Well, it's actually quite simple. Because if you can go from a duration or time to market from 12 weeks down to 10 weeks, then you have saved 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks, if they are 100,000 worth, for each project you do, that's 200,000 per project you do. If you do 10 of those a year, that's 2 million. You're not doing anything new, you're just doing it smarter. You're just focusing on actually delivering the value. So all of a sudden you can actually say, okay, shouldn't we focus on actually our ability to deliver value instead of the single ideas you have? Because there'll always be good ideas. You'll always come up with good ideas. But the CD3 can help you, and the cost of delay can help you with the focus on your ability to deliver any value, and not just that particular good idea you had this week, because there'll always be new ideas. But this one is actually more important, that you generate something you can use in the future to create more value and get a better, more sustainable company. And it's not that hard. When you look at wait time versus access time, saying from an idea is started, committed to actually deliver it, you say, this looks fine, it looks like it's okay, but actually, when you measure it, it's like there's maybe in total, if you're good, 10% of the time where you actually work on it. The rest of the time, it's waiting in queues. So 90% of the time, your work is just sitting in queues, waiting. And we are so blind to queues, we don't see them. When you get a mail in your mailbox, how often do you answer it instantly? You don't. You wait until you have the time. That's a queue. That's work waiting to actually be worked on. And when you email it to someone else, it'll sit there again. It'll send for, even if it's only a couple of hours, it'll sit in that queue waiting to be answered. Again, it's a queue, and it's waiting time. And it might take you like 10, 15 minutes to answer it, but it's waited for maybe a day because you're busy that day, so you have to take it the next day. So that's 8 hours of work versus 15 minutes. That's why you have queues all the time. That's why it takes so long to deliver. It's not the 15 hours you actually spend on it. That's why it's not important to me if you spend 10 hours on a feature or 100 hours. It's how fast you can actually deliver it. How good are you actually at working together at delivering value? That's what actually makes a difference. Yeah? So we've been doing that for 1.5 years now. The Kanban visualization and cost of delay as drivers. Of course, we've done a lot of other stuff. We've done like Google Sprint, and we have small shorter cards and stuff like that. But those are the two main drivers, the visualization through Kanban boards and our cost of delay. Results, or churn, how many customers are actually leaving us, is from 2017. In 2018, they were down by 17%. 2019, this year, it looks like they're down by 30%. So the customers want to stay longer. That's good. That's really good, because that's easy money. You've already paid to get them on board, so now they're just generating money for you for a longer time. Lead time, that's my favorite. That's the one KPI I keep coming back to the entire business saying this is the important one. We went from 30 weeks in 2018 to 19 weeks in 2019. We halved that time. That sounds like an impossible feature, but it's not that impossible because 2017, no one knew how long it actually took in average. I had to dig down into the material and ask people, when did you actually start and stop these projects to get the data? We weren't really paying attention to it. And just by focusing on it, a lot happened. Just by visualizing what we're actually doing, you could pull stuff up that, well, it's not that important. Yeah, but we keep on talking about it. We keep discussing this thing. So why don't we just, if it's not important, remove it, stop doing it, and focus on the things that are important. We have a way of communicating value now, so let's do that. Let's talk about what we actually should do and focus on that and creating more value faster. So that's the lead time. Then we have a net promoter score. Of course, it varies from month to month, but the trend 2017 were between 9 and 20, if you know the NPS score. In 18, between 17 and 25, and 19 we've had between 26 and 32. So that's a good one. And that's important. That basically also means that's a bit connected with the churn. That means that a customer can actually likes us, would like to promote us as a company. So it's a good health indicator for your customers. The last one is actually the one that I know the big guys want to see, the gross profit. Well, from 17, we added 12 million in 18 and 24 in 19 to the bottom line, the gross profit. I don't think everyone's happy about that. So that's where we are today. A really good place. We've started a journey, but as Christian said, we're not done. We've only just started. We only used about 2 years at this. So what's next? Well, coming soon, next from us. I've cheated a bit, and I actually started on because you need to when you go evolutionary, you need to start small around in the corners and let it grow. So the first line of my statement here is to continuously optimize. And that's basically a Denning circle: plan, do, check, act, or study, act, and repeat. I have introduced the Churchakatas that Jesper has taught me some years ago into certain individuals and tried to get them to use that and say, okay, this is maybe a good method to help you get a bit more organized and getting a good feedback loop. That's a bit hard to get people to actually buy into that and understand that. So I've made a little map of that. I started with, okay, start with what you do now. Start with your current condition. objective, where are you? It's not good or bad, it's just where you are. That's where you start your journey for the character. The next thing is you need to have a goal. Where do you want to go? What's your target condition? I had this sentence you saw before, that was mine. Started with that. Then you need to find your obstacles. What's actually stopping you from going there? Because you already identified and you know where you are. So it's like a map. You know you're here and you want to go there. Why haven't you gone there? Well, I don't have a car. Okay, what can we do about that? From there you start to experiment. Okay, can you borrow a car? Could you ride the train? Is there a bus? Something like that. Small experiments. And continue to do those all the time. But again, it's a bit hard to explain it for people to actually comprehend what that is. So for me, what really helped was I did a personal Kanban, or character, basically. I did one on myself. So I started saying, okay, I want to feel more fit. I want to be healthier, weigh a bit less, run a bit faster. So I did that in 14 weeks. I said, well, I've lost 10 kilos. And I now run a 10K in 4:40 instead of a 5K in 5:40 by the power of the Carter. So thank you, Jesper. You just added some years on my life. Yeah? I think basically that's what I've planned to say today. And of course I'm open to questions if anyone has anything they want to answer. Otherwise I think... yeah. Sorry, I think we'll just try to add a microphone here so everyone can hear you. This one. I'll just grab this one because you can throw it. Sorry. Sorry, yeah.
What tools are you using?
For what part of it?
All of this.
All of it, yeah. Well, basically, the Kanban boards are, of course, on whiteboards because they need to be visible.
So there's no
There's.
information tool?
No, of course. We're using a tool called Favro in behind. It's just like Jira, just a bit better, or more suited for us, at least. And everything we have on a whiteboard on the portfolio level, I have documented that tool as well, so I have all the data on all the different tasks, and our BSS is running on that tool. The entire pipeline, the continuous delivery pipeline, is hooked up on that tool. So, yeah.
I think it's very interesting what you were saying.
Yeah?
I think there's a lot of potential in what you presented.
Thank you.
So I'd like to talk to you.
You're welcome. I'll be here until 8 o'clock or something like that. So yeah.
I think I have some ideas.
You're welcome. I would love to talk about that.
So you've gained some great results over the past years.
Yeah.
Do you think it will plateau? Like, do you think that you hit a golden spot here and then it will plateau? Or do you think it will continue to get these types of results?
I think we will continue to improve because we have just started, but there were some initial low-hanging fruits that helped us along the way. But there's still tons of stuff we can improve. There's still lots of bottlenecks, a lot of lag in the system, so we can definitely improve still and work smarter and better. So I'll guess next year you won't see a 50% improvement in lead time, but maybe 20% or something like that would be my guess. Anyone else?
Yes, I have a totally different question.
Yeah.
The shape on the cost of delay curve,
Yeah.
the one you presented up here,
Yeah.
is that the only shape you use, or do you use the different shapes?
The standard one.
The one you took here, because going into a new market
Yeah.
where you have competitors.
No, we have actually, in our sheets we have the examples. We have 4, I think, standard profiles.
So you have more
Yeah.
implemented.
So we have an actual deadline. You have extinction events like GDPR. You need to actually be there on that date, or you're dead.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And you have stuff where the value actually deteriorate if you don't go into the market at a certain point. You have things like a Christmas campaign. You can't run that in January. So yeah, this was just a standard because it's easy to explain. Yeah.
Okay, 4 curves.
Yeah.
Let us shout. First, thanks for sharing. Good, and congrats to the good results.
Thank you.
both looking back and looking ahead, what here at your company is the key to maintain constancy of purpose around this initiative? Because we're all used to seeing change and improvement initiatives wax and wane.
Yeah.
So what's the key here to keep it alive?
I think the key here is that it's evolutionary and not revolutionary. It's not a framework. Someone has told us you need to work like this. We have discovered our way of working by ourselves. Therefore, it's owned by the company itself and the employees. We're trying to empower them to actually do this. I think that will make a difference. No guarantees, but of course I think it's more resistant than a framework would be.
It might not be obvious, but there are quite a lot of roles attending a CD3 analysis. So there's not anyone from the top explaining down, because all needed to participate in such a calculation has been participating.
Yeah.
So the buy-in and transparency is built in, and thereby resilience, I'd say.
I think there's also a point about when we have our flow Kanban meetings every week, the entire leader group is there in the room, and it's an open room, so everyone can see it. We actually had a lot of guys from Telenor come down to CBP to see what we're actually doing, because it's there, and we talk about the value openly. So it's not something we hide, and we have the commitment from the leaders. I think that's an important point as well.
You mentioned you had...
Just a second.
Yeah.
No one can hear you when you ask questions.
Let's just speak into that. It's a speaker. Yeah.
You mentioned that you have some redundant data, I mean something on the physical boards and also some in tools.
Yeah.
And you met some resistance in having to double administrate.
No, because I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, but let's be honest. It's on the big portfolio level, and things don't move that fast on that one. So it might be once a week we need to update it. But the firewall we're using has an app, and I can drag and drop in that. So basically, I take a photo of new initiative, and then I drag and drop them in the app as we go along. So it's not a big hassle for me. Yeah. Anyone else? Then I think the sandwiches are coming out now. I can see. So, but feel free to contact us and ask more questions during the evening if you want to. Thank you.